Doctor, would you agree with this statement that I am about to give you? What is that statement? Defendant's counsel, objection. The court, are you reading from that book? Is that it? Plaintiff's counsel, I'm reading, but I am just asking if she agrees with it. The court, I understand that, but you are reading from some book, aren't you? Plaintiff's counsel, correct. The court, go ahead. Defendant's counsel, objection. The court, overruled at this point. Doctor, would you agree with this statement? Uncontrolled diabetes affects infection, and infection adversely affects diabetes. The basic rules in treating any foot infection are absolute bed rest, regulation of diabetes, adequate culturing of the wound, administration of appropriate antibiotics, adequate drainage of all infection. Would you agree with that? Defendant's counsel, objection. The court, objection sustained. Defendant's counsel, can the jury be instructed to disregard counsel's statement? The court, yes. You just don't consider that particular question in your deliberations in the jury room because you will be getting an instruction that questions that are not answered may not be included in your deliberations. Doctor, would you agree that absolute bed rest is appropriate when there is an infection of a diabetic foot? It depends. Does it depend upon the severity of the infection? Yes, it can. So absolute bed rest is not a ridiculous thing to order, correct? No, it's not ridiculous. Okay, doctor, you are familiar with the term offloading? Yes, and basically offloading is a situation or a procedure in which you try to relieve the pressure on a foot. Right. In order to allow the wound to properly heal, correct? True. And some of the things that can be done with regard to offloading could include putting braces on the leg, correct? True. Crutches? True. With a wheelchair? Yes. In cases where you want to keep them absolutely off their feet, you can order a wheelchair for them to get around, correct? True. Now, doctor, you didn't order any of these things or prescribe any of these things for Mr. Shane, correct? No, I did not order the wheelchair, no. Or crutches? Well, did you order crutches? I would not want to put... Mr. Shane is a big guy. I didn't want to consider that. I wanted to have things that were practical, that had some practicality. So, no, I did not. You didn't order crutches. How about a cane? A big guy can walk around with a cane, right? Yes. A cane is a way of offloading, is it not? Not really. Well, it's better than just walking flat on the foot, is it not? First on the foot without a pressure relief shoe, yes. Well, would there be any problem with using a pressure relief shoe and a cane? No, that would be acceptable. Now, doctor, do you recall that textbook that we talked about earlier, Diabetic Foot Disorders, a clinical practical guideline? Defendant's counsel, objection. The court, overruled. Does she recall it? Plaintiff's counsel, yes. Defendant's counsel, I think there's been questioning on that textbook by this doctor. Plaintiff's counsel, I can ask other questions about it, Your Honor. The court, yes. Defendant's counsel, well, if the doctor does not acknowledge it, then I don't believe you can. The court, well, if the answer to the question, are you familiar with it, is no, that ends it. Plaintiff's counsel, okay. The court, but if it's yes, then some questions might be asked. I believe you indicated earlier that you were familiar with that textbook, correct? Yes. Okay, doctor, do you recall ever seeing a chart in that book? Defendant's counsel, objection. The court, well, have you finished the question? Plaintiff's counsel, no, I did not. The court, finish the question. Do you recall ever seeing a chart in that book which created, in order to aid the podiatrist in proper treatment of the foot, which created the court? Objection sustained. Doctor, would you agree that in the absence of pedal pulses, non-invasive testing is appropriate? Defendant's counsel, objection, Your Honor. Is something being read from, or is this just a general question? Plaintiff's counsel, just a general question. Can you repeat that? I'm sorry. In the absence of any pedal pulses, would non-invasive testing be appropriate under those circumstances? Yes, it would. It would be? Is that correct? Yes, I said it would be. Doctor, under what circumstances would a patient with absent pedal pulses that you were seeing, would it be appropriate to order non-invasive testing, vascular testing, if I did not know anything about the patient prior? A patient coming to you for the first time, just tell us under what circumstances. I would order those tests if there were absent pulses or signs of not good circulation. Was Mr. Shane such a patient that you never had seen before? He was. You had no information about him whatsoever? No, we had information about Mr. Shane. We had information about his vascular doctor. Was there any doubt in your mind on July 23rd when you were with Dr. Riley and Mr. Shane that he had distal vascular disease? Plaintiff's counsel, I'm going to object. It's a leading question. The court overruled. It was made known to us from Dr. Cohen that Mr. Shane had distal vascular disease. Is that information, doctor, documented in the patient's medical chart, that he has distal vascular disease? Yes, peripheral vascular disease, distal vascular disease. Is it documented in the patient's chart? Yes. And why is it documented in the chart? It's documented because it gives us information about the patient's vascular status. Now, according to the record, Dr. Riley charted that the patient had absent hair, atrophic skin, and delayed capillary refill. What, if anything, is the significance of those findings in association with the condition of distal vascular disease? It confirms the diagnosis that with these findings they correlate significantly that the patient has distal vascular disease. Why were you caring for this patient at the Diabetic Foot Care Center? We were there to provide wound care for the diabetic patients in the vascular, purely to provide wound care. And with respect to Mr. Shane, why was he at that center on July 23rd? He was at that. Defendant's counsel, I'm going to object. She cannot testify why Mr. Sisti went there. Plaintiff's counsel, I will rephrase, Judge. What was your understanding as to why Mr. Shane was at the Diabetic Wound Care Center on July 23rd, 1998?